Money never sleeps, pal.
Hey there, welcome to episode 60 of Money Never Sleeps, a podcast that looks inside the head of entrepreneurs and at what makes them do what they do. I'm Pete Townsend, your co-host of Money Never Sleeps, along with Owen Fitzgerald. This episode of Money Never Sleeps is kindly sponsored by Ireland's fintech and financial services recruitment specialist, Top Tier Recruitment. If you or a colleague need help attracting and retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, it is highly advisable that you build a relationship with a team at Top Tier Recruitment, as they really know their stuff. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com and tell them we sent you. In this episode, we continue with part 2 of how to survive and thrive with your investor. You can check out part 1 in episode 58. Featured in part 2 are Rachel Kenny from HubSpot, who covers the basics of startup marketing, and Bernadette Vinnings from Blanco, who tells her story about raising capital from VCs. You'll hear Ian Dalton from Flagship Marketing in there moderating, with Jo van der Velde from Euroclear, Koen van der Hooijdonk from Blanco, and yours truly all piping in. So let's dig right into episode 60 of Money Never Sleeps.
Let me ask you a slightly cheeky question. What is, as a startup or a scale up really, what is the best advice you would give to an investor looking to invest in a startup or a scale up? One piece.
Team. If I have to choose just one thing, I think that the right team can do a lot even with an initially bad idea and find a good pivot, while a very good product or idea with a terrible team will never take off. So
look for the team rather than the product, or more than the product.
Well, it should be a combination, of course, but I could only say one thing. So I guess the most important thing is team. Yeah.
Okay. Koen, do you have anything to add?
No, I couldn't agree more with Bernadette, actually. It's like Bernadette says, if you're a good team, then you also manage to make changes when they come along. And one thing is a given, that if you write the journey, there will always be changes. And if you have a good team that you can communicate with and challenge yourself as a team with different people within the team, then I mean different personalities, I think that's the richness of being a startup.
Great. Any other thoughts on that? Okay. So let me change direction a little bit now and invite Rachel Kenny to take the stand. Rachel's going to look at something slightly different. So we've been very strategic at the moment. We've been talking about how partnerships work between VCs and startups and financial institutions. But now we're going to assume that we're in the point where investment has already been made. The challenges of working with an investor are already being realized, and we're going to look at the world of marketing automation as one of those areas which can help organizations get through some of the tough targets that investors might be setting. So, Rachel, over to you.
Thanks, Ian. You can all hear me, yeah? Cool. So, kind of set the scene very, very nicely. I think that the part that I have to play here is, it's really about, okay, now that you've gotten that bit of finance, how do you best put that to use? And I suppose what some people turn to is a marketing automation solution. But okay, so what is it? I think we need to lay that groundwork first. So it's all about using software to automate your marketing activities. So many marketing departments, they'll try and automate repetitive tasks such as your email marketing, social media posting, and even your ad campaigns. And it's not just for the sake of efficiency, but it's also so they can provide a more personalized experience for the customer. So the technology of marketing automation makes these tasks easier. I suppose at its best, marketing automation is a combination of software and strategy. So it should allow you to nurture your prospects with highly personalized, useful content that helps convert those prospects to delighted customers. And I think successful marketing automation strategies will reduce that friction, helping you to continue to nurture customer relationships as well, or well after they've been passed to the sales team and after they've been closed as customers. And unfortunately, because there's the popularity of the term marketing automation, with that came the misconception as it's grown that marketing automation software can be this salve for any slowdowns in marketing growth, including the need to generate new leads. And this misconception will leave many marketers with sophisticated tools to automate their middle of the funnel, but absolutely nothing for generating new leads to nurture in the first place. And I think the consequence of that is some marketers, not all, will begin to start purchasing email lists to nurture instead of generating quality inbound leads. And while that seems kind of like a quick fix, it's definitely not a long-term solution, and nor does it create that kind of fertile ground for a healthy long-term relationship with your customers. And I think many marketers also continue to think of marketing automation in the context of this funnel instead of in this this flywheel concept that I think is generating an awful lot at the moment. And to generate a lead, you put them in a marketing email queue, and maybe then you'll pass those hand raisers, people who submit forms, you'll pass them over to sales. And I suppose this creates a kind of disjointed experience for prospects and customers as they move from marketing to sales to customer service, instead of building a contextual, efficient experience based on each individual's needs. Marketing automation becomes this way to force people through a funnel with arbitrary touch points and completely irrelevant content. And I think if we move to the next slide, then we're kind of going into, okay, well, if that is an example of a bad marketing automation strategy, what is a good marketing automation strategy? And I suppose from the offset, you do need this context about who your leads are and what they're specifically interested in to give prospects a good experience. And that marketing automation backed by like a really strong inbound strategy is centered around the prospect. So an inbound marketing automation, it uses all this information that we know about a person to inform our strategy. So we deliver the information that they need to make a purchase exactly when they need it and exactly in the place that they're looking for it. So a good marketing automation takes into account the evolving needs of our leads, the behaviors, the interactions that they have with the company across different an array of marketing channels, not just email. I mean to say that we're not just monitoring click-through rates and open rates, etc. We're using these behavioral inputs from multiple channels, such as your social media, if they're viewing pricing pages, for example, or if they're consuming a particular piece of content, that gives marketers this context that they need to fully understand what is a true leads challenge. And the most effective marketing automation also uses these various channels beyond email to communicate, which means the success of your campaign, it relies less on email and fully utilizes various channels that completely influence that buyer's journey. And more so often than not, there's no top of the funnel, so that there's no steady stream of leads coming in, and there's no foundation put in place to support the middle of the funnel, where the marketing automation really becomes powerful. And marketers, they won't have what they need for an effective marketing automation until they have that steady flow of incoming leads. And I feel that too many marketers without lead generation strategies, they spend more of their time trying to figure out and take the tiny fraction of the market that they already have in their CRM, and they try to squeeze more out of it, whilst their competition, they're figuring out how to get more of the 99.99% of the market that's still out there. And then I think that segues nicely into, okay, that's all well and good, Rachel, but how do I generate leads? So first, your audience, they don't want their attention bought anymore, okay? So they want it earned from you. So this means lead generation strategies, they need to be revamped across the industry to better meet the needs of our target markets. And the first step in the evolution of this is to create compelling content. And I suppose the second is to use that content to convert visitors into leads. And of course, this is very much easier said than done, because content is certainly the long game, but how do you create content for your audience? So I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, who is your audience? And buyer personas, that we refer to them as these semi-fictitious representations of our ideal customers. So your content strategy should look to solve the challenges that these guys are experiencing at each stage of the buyer's journey. So the buyer's journey is split into three areas. They're areas of the mindset of the customer. So we've got our awareness, consideration, decision stage, which we'll actually take a nice look at in our next slide. And I've kind of shown that, each of these stages, as Ian moves through, will kind of look to also tackle a stage of the life cycle stage, which maybe we're all familiar with, and maybe we're not. But if we start at the beginning and if we look at our awareness stage, this is a stage where our customer, they know they're experiencing an issue, but they haven't yet defined it for themselves. And I kind of want to take a fintech example because I want to be able to, tap into it in some way. So if we take a fintech like Revolut, I'm using Revolut because I'm actually a Revolut customer. Some may roll their eyes at that, I'm not sure. But as an example, if we're using Revolut, and we're talking about, okay, where are their customers, our ideal customers at? Where's their head at in the awareness stage? So it could be like, I don't know, like what is the credit score and how does that affect me specifically, or something to that age. So you're really trying to define for them their problem. And then as they move into the consideration stage, what we're really trying to do is saying, okay, well, here's your issue, and here's a number of options that you can use to resolve your issue. And in those issues, you may mention your own company, you may mention different other ways. So an example in Revolut's case could be, 5 ways to save money. And in that, they might mention one of their features, but also they might mention a couple of other tactics, a couple of other models to do that as well. And each stage, you're kind of moving them through. So you've made them aware of their challenge, you've positioned a few options to them, and then the final stage is the decision stage, and that's where you kind of promote yourself as that solution. So you say, okay, I've shown you what your challenge is, I've given you your options, and also, by the way, we are your best option. So that can kind of take form in either a case study or something. Maybe in Revolut's case, it could be offer them, a free trial, for example, with maybe their metal card or their most premium product, for an example. But a buyer can come to your website at any stage in this journey. So it's important that we have content that we hit them at each stage, so we can nurture them to a place of purchasing eventually. So if I wanted to show you a way that you could create this strategy, create content, and think about this, I can show you quickly in the next slide kind of a way that you could visualize this tangibly. So you've got your user persona, you've got your stages, you've got your content in each stage, and through your content you might offer something of value, and you can gate that content and ask for their information, therefore they become leads, and then you can look to publish that and distribute that. So that's just kind of how I wanted to, I know I've talked an awful lot, but I kind of wanted you to be able to envision what that strategy could look like on paper as well. And then lastly, I suppose if we've talked about what's good marketing automation, like how to generate leads, then if we've got those two pieces in place, we now need to know, okay, when's that right time to implement our marketing automation tool? And if you're publishing good content, if you're generating a steady flow of leads, and if you could just move to the next slide, and you're ready to scale your efforts, the chances are it's really time to focus your efforts on a marketing automation strategy that will nurture those quality leads into your paying customers. So there's a couple of good questions here that we need to ask ourselves before we're ready to make that move and invest that money. And it's, are you generating a steady flow of new and qualified leads? Have your marketing and sales team understood what conversations marketing are going to have with your customers versus what conversations sales are going to have with your customers? Next, you're going to want to understand, are you tracking your digital leads? If you're tracking your leads, digital body language, in that, are you monitoring them across every touch point and every marketing channel, so not just email? And lastly, do you have a proven lead nurturing strategy that you want to scale? So you don't want to build out this process and then have to build it from scratch because it won't grow with your organization. You need to build a strategy that can allow you to go forward and amplify everything that you do. So for me, all of these are really, really good signs that marketing automation could work really well for your business, and you're in a place that it's a right time to invest. And I suppose the key here is understanding that marketing automation doesn't do your marketing for you, but it helps scale and amplify your existing efforts and strategies. So really, that's it from me. I don't know if there's any questions or anything that maybe even the panelists want to ask, because I think I'm a bit left field.
Yeah, let's ask the panelists this. How many of you guys are actually using marketing automation systems? And if you are using them, what benefit do you see that they are creating within your organizations?
Yeah, we are using it, and the best benefit it brings is actually structure, and also from my point of view as a CFO, it's a practical, very data-driven way to communicate also to our investors where we are at the point, what drives conversion, what doesn't, and it helps internally to really talk to get customers from one stage to the other, and to get it really in action and to get the team aligned.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point, and something that I didn't touch on, and actually probably should have, is that attribution reporting, being able to say, listen, through our marketing efforts, we actually saw, 80% of our revenue come through paid advertising, so we're actually going to, invest more in this in the coming months, in the coming quarter, and it's being able to turn around and saying, listen, we actually are putting an awful lot of behind our marketing efforts, and we're doing it correctly. We're creating, scalable processes so that when we do go to the next stage of funding, we're able to kind of push on and nothing's going to hold us back in that sense. So it's a very good point.
Bernadette, last but not least, Blanco. I know you've been extremely busy in securing funding for this firm that you've co-founded, and successfully so too. So I wonder if you just take us through a little bit of your experiences in how you found that process and the takeaways we should have.
Yeah, sure. I'll first tell a bit about Blanco, why we actually founded the company, so we can. Yeah, what we have been doing is we're a pretty experienced startup team. We all come from a large Dutch bank, or a large medium-sized Dutch bank at least, and we've been serving the asset management industry for a really long time, especially if you count all the years together. And 4 years ago, we decided to found Blanco, because what we were seeing was that the asset management industry was really in turmoil. There was a digital revolution going on, which caused the more traditional parties to have some trouble, and they were mainly trouble with decreasing margins, but there were also new and very complex regulations that they needed to comply to. So what we thought is we could help them to simplify the process and make it much cheaper to run their business. One of the questions we often got was, are asset managers going to be replaced by robots? The robo-advisors were popping up all around our clients, and it was a new wave that came into the industry. But we don't believe so. And the reason for that is that we really believe in the symbiosis between, man and platform, man and IT, especially in a world where trust is so important when it comes to asset management and money, and people trusting their assets and their money to others. It really is the combination between human and good IT, actually. So these people bring trust and empathy, where the IT brings efficiency and lower costs. So that is actually why we decided to develop a digital asset management platform. And what we wanted to do is save our clients time and money. We created a very user-friendly interface, and what it has become is a real personal guidance on rules and regulations. And our software actually does everything from onboarding, financial investment planning, portfolio management systems, but also asset management. There's a real security administration behind it. So what we do is actually we help asset managers to stay competitive in a tech-dominated future. They can be as cost-effective and efficient as a robo-advisor, but with that human touch involved. And what we're always saying to them, it's not about us, it's about enabling these asset managers, our clients, to focus on their clients again, because that is what they're best at. But of course, building an entire asset management platform is, pretty money intensive, resource intensive. So how did we pay for all this? And what I want to do is take you through our journey and tell you what we encountered. We actually started in October 2015, so it's almost 4 years ago. and actually the first year was funded by me and Joost, my co-founder and CEO of Blanco. We decided to not have a salary for 2 years, so we sort of bootstrapped the thing. And after a year, we came to the conclusion that our money was sort of gone, or at least the end of our money was coming inside. And what we did is we found the first Fools families and Fools friends and family investors, our first angels, and we gave them shares. Just normal plain shares. It was a very, very small round of investment, so I re-raised capital again after 6 months, and I actually did it in 2 smaller rounds, and I gave a convertible note and I gave shares. And of course, a convertible note is quite a nice instrument to use when you're a startup, because the earlier stage you are, the more difficult it is to really get a true or good or meaningful valuation on your firm, and you want to postpone that as an entrepreneur as long as possible. So a convertible note is a pretty nice instrument for that, because when you give it out, there's no need to determine a value at that time. The people that got in these rounds were very strategic angels. So it were people from the industry who could really contribute knowledge. And yeah, that of course helped a lot. They gave us introductions, they opened their network. We could always call them to discuss items that we were thinking about and that we wanted more information about, that we wanted to talk about. So that was very nice. Then what happened is in December 2017, we did another round of certificates, but also we had already started raising for a larger round, our first venture capital round. And I got in a number of term sheets. So I was in the luxurious position to make a choice between the venture capitalists who would join us as an investor. And what we did at that point was really think about what do we want in terms of geography. We had an offer of 2 Dutch venture capital firms and 2 Belgian. Our plan was to expand to Belgium. So we really made the choice to choose the Belgian investors, of which one was also a strategic investor, KBC. The other one is Volta Ventures. And we did that also because we already experienced the strength of investors opening up their network. So that is also why we made the choice again. And actually it has been a good choice, because by having Belgian investors, the Belgian clients trust us more, and we've got more background in that market as well. So it has been a good choice actually. Then last April, I closed another round. The one in April 2018 was 2 million. The last one in April was also 2 million. And then we added actually a Dutch Founders Fund as an investor. And also that again was a very deliberate choice. The earlier VCs were reinvesting, so that was a good sign also for the new VC to join. But we chose this party because it's a party that is made up of really successful Dutch entrepreneurs. So amongst others, the founder of Just Eat, but also the founder of WeTransfer, really guys who knew how to build and scale a startup internationally. So there again, we were able to make a choice for smart money. And that's really great. This is a very active party. They're really helping us on the spot, and especially for the first months after they invested, it really gave a boost to the professionality of our organization. And also, for example, this is when we really implemented marketing automation, because up until that point, we did have actually HubSpot as a CRM, and we used it. But now it was also really restructured in order to be able to report well, to use it well, to steer the team well, and to make decision on the basis of the data we had in there. So that actually helped a lot. Well, I learned a number of lessons, of course, in this process. Pete already mentioned it. Fundraising takes time, at least 3 to 6 months. So you need to start preparing well in advance. Sometimes it can go really fast, and the due diligence processes are short and well framed. But sometimes you end up in longer discussions, more difficulty in really getting the details of the deal on paper. So you need to prepare, because you don't want to admit to certain demands just because you're running out of time, and otherwise your company will be bankrupt. And then again, indeed, choose your investors well. See where they can really add strategic value. Though strategic does not necessarily mean business. It can be other strategic value as well, although business, of course, is very nice, because in the end, startups look for 2 things, and that's money and customers. So if that can be combined, that is really optimal. Knowledge can be part of the strategic value. And for us, it was image. What I mentioned, the international investors for international expansion, that works. It's important to ask beforehand how they can contribute, how active they really are. In all honesty, as a startup, I've heard the term, we're a VC 2.0 a lot. And when you ask, interesting, what does 2.0 mean to you? It does mean very different things. Don't take all the burden yourself. Your supervisory board and investors are there to help. So even though asking them for help is, as a startup, often incredibly difficult, because you feel very vulnerable. You feel like, I should know how to handle this. I should know how to do it. And now I'm asking help for such a crucial topic. It's very important. And also asking for help, it does not really fit the entrepreneurial profile, because we all think we can solve everything ourselves. But it does help to ask for to help for support, and does help to think together about things every now and then. It's very important to leave room for employee stock participation whenever you do the deal. It's great to involve to be able to involve your employees within the company, within the future of the company, help them build and profit from the value creation. And it all, in all honesty, helps to keep salaries lower, which is good for your burn. Structure your cap table well. If it's a mess, it sometimes is hard to. It might be hard to convince investors to step into it. Often they ask you for a clean cap table whenever they step in, so you'd better be prepared and structure it in advance. And the right investors can really help to further professionalize your business. It helps in discussing pricing. It's freshness. It's the force of a new pair of eyes. If you choose the right investors, it can be a very happy marriage. And then again, in every marriage, you sometimes have sort of a fight, and that is okay if you find each other again after a fight and listen to each other and communicate together, what we already discussed before this evening. So that's it.
Very good. Thank you very, very much for that. Let's just close with a few questions for the panel. Bernadette, if I could start with you, I could see very clearly from your presentation why you chose the investors that were very much aligned to your strategy and could provide strategic input into what you're doing, and because you were running out of money. But why do you think the investors chose you? What was attractive about Blanco that other fintechs could take on board when they're looking for investment?
Well, I, in all honesty, I do think it's easier to be a B2B company than a B2C company. The interest in B2B companies is larger in general from VCs. I guess that is the case because less marketing money is needed to get the thing running, and also the business is often more sticky. Again, I think it's the team. We have a very experienced founders team, and I guess that really gives trust to the investors that we know what we're talking about. Having your things in order and clear and neat helps. Having a very good pitch, clearly explaining what is the problem we are solving, what is our solution doing for that, why is that different than others, that really helps. And I do believe you need to change something or really add something. So there should be sort of a disruptive element in it, because just repeating what others have already done is not so attractive to invest in.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that, Bernadette. Pete, there's a question here for you, which I might throw open to the rest of the panel, but I'm going to let you kick it off as it's directed at you. What do you feel, having heard all these presentations and from your own experience, what is the most important part of the investor-founder relationship? And we've heard a little bit about founders not necessarily going right through to the big scale-ups. So what would you say is the most important part of the investor-founder relationship?
I'd say it's trust. To me, that's right at the cornerstone of it. I know myself personally, I extend trust to people very quickly. And if I don't see that repaid, you're dead to me, right? So, but it's, you have to be able to, when you ask somebody if they can help, right, that they're going to say yes or no, right? And sometimes, like, Bernadette was saying, and sometimes asking for help is hard. You don't actually ever need to just go down on your knees and say, hey, I really need your help with something. It's really about just having that open conversation and being able to trust them and being able to say, yes, I understand the sector that you were in, Mrs. VC, before you became a VC, and you have a number of contacts, and a number of people in that market. Are you able to actually connect me with these individuals in such a way that's going to be helpful, right? You have to understand how much of that that the investor is going to take on and how much they're going to carry. Are they just flipping you email addresses of people, or are they actually engineering a well thought out introduction for you and prefacing that with a call to tell their contact exactly what it is that's driving them to help the startup that they're helping, right? So there's a lot that goes into it. These relationships need to be more than just about board meetings. It needs to be about talking frequently. Sometimes VCs and investors talk a couple times a day. VCs and founders talk a couple of times a day, or angel investors for that matter. And you don't get it overnight. You don't get it right away. The best relationships tend to be where it does move quickly in terms of building that trust and that comfort level, but it's not something that can happen overnight.
Got it. Thank you.
And if I can add something, it also really depends on how questions are framed in certain situations. For example, it's easy to have trust in a situation where all goes well. Then it's easy. Yeah. Well, fine. Everything goes fine. But as soon as, for example, there's a month or 2 months where you don't hit the targets you've set, there's two ways to approach it. A VC could either ask, "Oh, I'm seeing your targets or you're not meeting your targets. Your results are lower than what you projected. What is the story behind it? What are you going to do to solve it? Is there anything we can do? When do you think this will be repaired?" These are informative questions. A VC could also, or an investor could also say, "Hey, what happened? You're behind target. Why? Tell me why. What? Why?" And that is a totally different approach. And For me as an entrepreneur, it helps if the VC asks constructive questions and tries to find out what's the root cause behind it and how we can take it away together, instead of just pointing and, hey, you did something wrong and what's happening.
Yeah, you're totally right. And it's out of my nature to be that jerk that you just mentioned, right? But there's a lot of them out there. And what I'm learning is that in the world of VC, at seed stage, there's a lot more trust and closeness between founders and investors, because they're generally the first ones in on the round. When you get to Series A, where there's things that are being, a new investor is coming in and they're perhaps trying to blow apart whatever preferences that the original investor had, that's where things just can get nasty, right? So, it's easy for everyone to be kumbaya when revenue's going up, but when revenue's flatlining, you need that trust to fall back on.
Yeah, and there again, the communication helps. When you talk a lot to your investor, he knows what's happening and why. So it's really about the communication.
Yeah.
And Yo, you've seen a fair few founders in your time. Would you agree that the most important part of the relationship is trust, or would you have a different take?
No, I think trust is important. I think, as I said, the communication and being open and blunt, I think, is also sometimes important. Yeah, but it comes with trust. I think if you want to build a trustworthy relationship, you need to be very open on both sides. Yeah, I think it's a key one. Absolutely.
Very good. We've run quite a long time into this presentation, so I think I'm going to draw it to a close by simply saying thank you so much to all our panelists for all the insights that they've given. We've covered an awful lot of ground, from marketing automation, from the financial institution side, from the startups, but I would just like to thank all of those who attended, and I'd really like to thank our panelists, Bernadette, Rachel, Yo, Pete, and Koen, for being such great sports and sharing their insights with us all.
Money never sleeps, pal.
That wraps it up, folks. Thanks to Flagship Marketing for kindly sharing the webinar content with us. And show notes and links are on moneyneversleeps.ie, so check us out online. Remember, if you or a colleague need help attracting or retaining great talent for your fintech or financial services company, it is highly advisable that you build a relationship with a team at Top Tier Recruitment, as they really know their stuff. You can find them at toptierrecruitment.com. As for me, I increase the odds of startup success. DM me on Twitter at ptownsendnv if you want to know more. You can follow Owen on Twitter at OwenFitzgerald9. Finally, thanks to Conan Brophy from Create Sound for editing this podcast. Till next time, thanks for listening. See ya!